Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome to the bridge. We have an exciting show for you today. We're here with Haki, Ammi. We're happy to have you here.
Great. Thank
and
you.
Mr. Jermaine Wright.
Hello.
He's our newest addition to the bridge, but a very special addition. And today we're going to have some exciting news to talk to you about. However, if you're interested in calling in, feel free to call in at 240-719-2560. That number again is 240-719-2560. So I just want to talk a little bit here with Mr. Haki.
Yes.
He is a #1 best-selling author, which is phenomenal, given that it's not easy to break into that, to being a #1 bestseller. He's written a wonderful, wonderful book called Mission Unstoppable. I love the title. And he's written that book with none other than George Frazier, correct?
Yes.
And also Les Brown.
Right.
Yeah, a motivational speaker. So we're going to listen to some real exciting things today from him. So what I'd like to do is start by asking you, where did you get the title Mission Unstoppable?
Well, so I met Dr. George C. Frazier maybe 6 years ago in Dallas, Texas. That was my first time actually attending his Power Networking Conference, and that's a conference of a few thousand professionals that come together each and every year in different parts of the United States. And he was pitching for this opportunity, and he already had the name of the book, Dr. Frazier did, and so it made sense to me just what the opportunity was, and hearing that Les Brown was going to be a part of it, I said, this is something that, with my background and experience, that I wanted to be a part of. So it just made some sense and rung with me to team up with these established authors.
Okay, all right. And so tell us a little bit about what Mission Unstoppable is about.
So yes, and I'll just add the full title, Mission Unstoppable, Extraordinary Stories of Failure's Blessings.
Okay.
So that's the full
title.
So principally, when we're talking about being unstoppable and understanding that our failures in life, and we have different ones, and we have to understand that a failure does not necessarily mean that that's your destiny. You are not a failure.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so learning from your own personal experiences, we'll just say that, as well as those experiences from others, is the difference of what a successful-minded individual do, and those that choose to not learn, from these experiences. And so this is what we talk about when we say failures, blessings. And so we share in there, like each author shares a particular story and a principle, one principle that they can encourage people to do, and how they overcome their challenges.
Right. Well, I always like to say about when it comes to success, those that are experts in our field are people who've learned through failure what to do and what not to do.
And I was going to touch on that, because I actually, the beginning of the book, the introduction, the story actually starts with what looks like a big moment for, I'm assuming, the author in that point in time where he's supposed to be giving a big speech.
Was that Les? Oh no, just George Frazier.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Frazier's speech.
And I'm wondering, in that moment, like, for a lot of people, it seems like that was a big moment. For a lot of people to choke up like that in that moment, would signal, you know what, that's it, it's over. I can't come back from that.
Right.
But the fact that the book starts that way obviously says it's a lot here.
Absolutely.
Right. And so one of the things that we learn about purpose and destiny, which you touched on, is that in order to achieve, you really have to live out your purpose and destiny. And did you want to add a little bit more about destiny and purpose and what you found out through your extraordinary participants in the book?
Well, absolutely. It's interesting. Dr. Frazier, I can't recall the gentleman's name that used to speak at his conference. He and Les Brown were big speakers there, but George actually as he continued as he shared his story and his experience of growing up in Brooklyn, New York, he lived in a house, an orphanage, and his family were actually heroin addicts.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Okay.
And, I just use his example of saying that, when you are focused on your purpose, and regardless of some of the obstacles and
Circumstances, situations.
Yes. And this is where, that focusing comes on. I just spoke at Carver High School in Baltimore. And that was my topic, the focus factor.
Yes.
Going from good, better to best.
Yes.
And that's, understanding that sometimes if we could stay focused on what we aspire to do, aspire to become, we can overcome these challenges.
Right. Well, for me, I wanted to find out, I'm all about solutions to problems. And so from the various authors that you have in your book, what would you say are the top 3 key ingredients someone needs to possess to ensure success?
Wow, it's a good question. Great question.
Yeah.
I'd say faith, absolutely. We can't do much without faith. Persistence. Persistence certainly is one. And belief.
Wow, that's good.
Belief is a powerful tool that we should use and acquire to overcome what we don't immediately see.
Good. Those are very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know you are fellow Baltimorean.
Yes,
So we both grew up in the streets of Baltimore City,
right,
believe it or not. And yet, despite the obstacles and despite all of the negative information that we have that comes out of Baltimore, we managed to what you call make it.
Right.
So what was it like, first of all, for you growing up on the streets of Baltimore? Describe some of the background and what you went through.
Yes, and I actually do share part of that in my book. I talk about growing up in the streets of Baltimore. I always say I was an average student. I just did enough to get by, but sometimes as Dr. Frazier says, he says, if you're average, you might end up in jail some places. So growing up, of course, there were choices, that unfortunately I did not make all the right ones. But I share a little bit, just kind of being connected to some of the street culture that I almost lost my life in the streets of Baltimore. And so I always realized that, it's a blessing to be amongst the living.
Yes.
And, you gotta use those examples for me. Use those examples and let people know that. And this is, why I'm working with the young people now to let them hear and see me and say, okay, you can make choices. And I made a choice, on, what could have been a not so good choice, as well as moving towards making better choices. So, right.
Okay. Now, generally, whenever you're going through, like you said, being on a mission and being unstoppable in your mission, and please pick up a copy of his book from his website.
It's a great book.
You want to give your website out?
Certainly, please. Yes, and my website is successscholarhaki.com, successscholarhaki.com.
Okay. And so we'll be back in about a few seconds with the
quick
rest
break.
of the crew, and we'll talk a little bit more with Mr. Ammi. Everyone has a story to tell, and I know you do too. But you don't know where or how to start? Imagination Press will help you. Write, edit, and publish your book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Lulu.com, Ingram, as well as helping you reach markets across the globe. Call us today on 301-379-2709 for a free one-on-one consultation, or visit our website and send us an email, imaginationpressonline.com. Again, that's imaginationpressonline.com. Imagination Press is your complete guide to publishing, branding, and promotions. Give us a call today. Okay, we're back. And we're here with
Hello.
Mr. Haki, Ammi. And he's here with his wonderful book, Mission Unstoppable, Extraordinary Stories of Failures, Blessings, which I love that title. And so anyway, we want you to pick up a copy of your book. If you don't do anything today, but order a copy of his book, do so at
SuccessScholarHaki.com. SuccessScholarHaki.com.
And we need to really invest in our youth. I find that
Amen.
giving back is the most critical thing that we could do. We're here right now with Twala and Sean, and we're going to talk a lot more about how important it is to invest in them. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit more, Haki, about mentoring and what you've done in the community and what a call to action would be from you for others to join you so that we can solidify getting on the right track with our youth.
Certainly. Well, I work in Baltimore still with some of the youth program that's working with youth between the ages of 18 and 24 right now still. But rather recently, I saw an opportunity. I mentioned earlier that, I spoke at Carver High School, so I've been speaking for quite some time into juvenile justice system as well as some of the schools. But recently in D.C., and you all could check it out, there was what was called the Hip Hop Museum, and then there's the HBCU Museum. So I did a one-day tour type of thing where I took a couple people down there.
That's cool.
They had a trap music one too, right? Trap music museum or trap museum.
That's in Atlanta.
Okay.
That's in Atlanta. So this particular one is a touring museum. So it's in DC. I'm not sure how long it's going to be there. So they're going to be touring real soon. So I just had a good time with some young people to really know that history as well as the history of HBCUs. So.
Right.
So I just want to, share that that's an opportunity.
Right. And so one of the things with our youth, and Jermaine, you can speak to this too, is it's very difficult for us to kind of grab them in. As we get older, we kind of lose touch, and we want to make sure that they're even on that right path or mission. How do we go about making that happen, you think?
Well, I believe that is kind of what the platform I spoke of last week is built on, meeting people where they are rather than where you expect them to be.
That's a good point.
Just spoke about that a bit. But the youth, it's a very troubling time for the youth. So at this point, you have to understand that they aren't going to come to you and they aren't going to do what you want them to do. So you got to kind of understand them better to really help them. You can't help someone if you don't understand them.
Right.
So.
Right. And I know you've seen a lot of that in working with the youth, correct? In terms of what they're telling you are the problems in terms of, I know the Bridge works real hard to solidify that relationship because one of the things that our forefathers, I think, did an excellent job of is passing that information on. We sat at the feet, I know Twala, we share stories about sitting at the grandmom's feet and learning and getting that, and you mentioned this in your book, wisdom, which I haven't seen. That's a word people really don't use a lot. So what I want to know more about, what is it that we can talk to our children about from your perspective to really solidify the relationship and get them on the right path?
Well, I'll just say, we have to connect them to, like you said, the wisdom of our elders and our ancestors. And I see a great one right there that you're going to mention a little later. But, for me, just growing up, it was the power of books for me, understanding that sometimes you don't have the people directly around you. And so for me, and sometimes you may not necessarily have people around you with that wisdom.
Right.
So, I had to search out for books and, use good discernment and knowing what's being taken into my mind. And that's what we have to encourage young people to do, is protect their minds from what's going on out here. So, and then, the world will kind of come to them.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry. I think Doc and I spoke about this phone conversation a couple of weeks ago, that the generational gaps as far as passing on information and knowledge from generation to generation has kind of been lost from my generation to above what you guys' generation. For whatever reason, a disconnect there is really big. And because of such, my generation has this I'm gonna live my best life thing as well as being a parent, and I don't think we really caught on to the fact that being a parent means giving all of that up. So the issues with the youth that we see now comes from a lack of attention from the parent. And it's why so much clutter with social media and the music and sports, why so much influence actually from these different areas on our youth.
Right.
Which again, it's why we're going to have to meet them where they are, rather than
try to change
whatever we think we are at this point and what we think we can do. It's irrelevant.
Right. That's
it's
a good point. That's a good
I'm sorry.
And I think, Haki, you mentioned earlier about faith. Can you talk a little bit more about faith and belief?
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting that you mentioned that first, as in terms of solutions.
Well, absolutely. And I just use the example, and not to be religious in any context, but at one particular time, and I got this from Jawanza Kunjufu's book, there was the church, young people listened to, there was the church, there was, parents, there was schools, and then there was, peers at the end. And now it's turned into a reverse order. And let me add, television is in there towards the bottom. And media.
That's a good point.
And now it's the reverse. It's peers and television.
Part of that problem is community doesn't exist anymore. So the community, that
That's
idea is gone.
Right. And and there's different reasons for the disintegration, of our communities in terms of the churches and the lack of connectivity that it once was, and where we must somehow get back to in terms of developing the diverse institutions that our community need.
Right. And we know we've seen changes. I know I go to a good church, Spirit of Faith. Shout out to Dr. Mike. But I think that the churches do need to kind of tighten it up a bit. And what happens is that there's legislation that gets passed that deadens that voice. And I know Twyla has always been very eloquent in your understanding of how big of a purpose and that the church played during the 60s civil rights movement. And I think we also need to find other avenues of doing what the church hasn't done. So I think you mentioned neighborhoods and communities. And it doesn't take a lot for us to get involved in our neighborhoods or communities.
Absolutely.
And I think it comes back to the old saying, teach one,
Each one,
teach one.
Yeah.
Getting back to
Each
some
one,
of those
reach one.
basic things. But the piece I like that you talked about, Haki, is really education and reading. And I find it fascinating that there are some things you can't always get from a parent or even your community. A book can change your entire mindset. And so I'm always encouraging the youth to make sure that they read and read things, all types of books. It doesn't have to be just read, just read, because one book can radically change how you're thinking about something and put you on a path to a mission unstoppable. Do you want to speak a little bit more about that?
Well, I'll just read real quick. And I know
Okay.
we have other guests as well, hosts as well.
Yeah.
But,
Take your time.
Okay. I'm just trying to,
Take your
thank you,
time.
sure.
No.
For me, just having these experiences, growing up in the streets of Baltimore, I always looked at when I turned 19, 20, like what could have happened, if I had made a wrong choice, like many of my peers. And so being angry and frustrated that that this kind of thing can never happen again, and just searching for knowledge. I read 100 books a year for 11 years.
Wow.
On a diverse amount of topics to, as you mentioned, freeing oneself, from the bondage of just the fact that I could have made a wrong choice, And so, and this is what caused me to be very focused in terms of having that purpose and direction.
Right.
So, just searching for knowledge and that word wisdom.
Right.
Caused me to have that burning desire to get free, actually.
Right. Well, I know you did a videotape that I happened to watch on poverty and anger.
Okay.
See where,
Okay.
and I really enjoy that because what you were really saying is that when you're in it, you've got to make some strategic changes for yourself when you're around poverty and you're dealing with a lot of angry people. And I thought for me it was profound because I found that a lot of times when we do go astray, it's not us by ourselves. It's always a peer or someone around you infiltrating your thought pattern or your thought system. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because to me, that just talking about anger and poverty and what people need to do differently.
Well, I agree certainly, and I appreciate that. I mean, you know, we in our community, we see poverty in abundance in many communities, and unfortunately, many people internalize it. You know, we internalize it, and instead of doing something practical about it, we try to escape.
Right.
You know, we try to find different mechanisms for. I mean, people do it through addictions and all kind of other things. As well as, you know, being irresponsible fiscally. Right. You know, and that's a reality within our community as well. Like, you know, what part are we going to take some type of responsibility for? You know, like, I mean, you know, even not to talk about reparations, but even within that context, it's like, okay, well, there are still things that you're going to have to do regardless. This is not physical slavery totally like that anymore. So you are free to move about the plantation on some levels. Yeah, you know, that's a good point. So we have to understand that, you know, looking back at it historically at how slavery was structured, that, okay, people still moved in slavery. Right. And this is what, you know, what I have to realize, that we still have this caste system in America, racial, economic pecking order, if you will. And how do we, as Brother James Klingman, he talks about taking an economic detour, that black people took an economic, always had to take these economic detours throughout history. And so this is what we have to always look at and have these ideas of how we create these
economic detours.
Yeah. Well, so economic detour. Well, his theory, his idea, his research was, he's a professor of business economics. He was at Cincinnati University, but his idea and research was that we couldn't go the traditional business routes. Right. So, you know, we had to do different types of things, the insurance companies that were started and the Black Wall Streets, and, you know, we just had to do different businesses differently.
Get creative.
Right.
Right. So I believe that, you know, in the 21st century, there are some opportunities that are simply still going to be blocked in a sense. And so we have to really focus our historic racial analysis of what these industries are, and, you know, understand, is it a time to push open the door, or is it a time to just, you know, say, okay, let me go do my own thing?
Yeah, that's an interesting avenue, because I'm new generation, but I grew up in Northwest DC town. Experienced probably a lot of the same things. However, my generation is not one that believes you can stop us from anything that we want to do.
Wow. Why is that? Wow. Why do you think that is?
I don't have the logical answer. I wake up every day believing if I want it, I'm going to go get it. And it's really nothing you can do to stop me from it. Now that becomes a problem too, though, because that's why you also have so many, like you just said, you have so many young guys that wind up making knucklehead decisions because they feel like, who gonna stop me? But when you realize the power you have in terms of here, you don't have to do all the extra stuff. Yeah. So when you said read. Like I'm not, I mean, the 100 books a year is awesome, but I would just pledge just read. Build your vocabulary. You know,
Right. That's a good point.
Never be caught off guard.
Right.
Here.
Right.
Because physically we can be stronger, we can be faster. Yes, we can rap, we can act, but listen, when it's all said and done, you're gonna get old, and then what does it all matter? Right. All you have is your mind. Man. So at that point, get it all while you can get it, and go for it. So I don't know if that wall really exists. I just think, like you said, strategically, I think it's timing. Like, we're at a time now where we can take. If you watch the athletes, they're taking control of their own brands. You know, it's about timing. 20 years ago, you would never say that. I wish you would have one of these basketball players speak up the way they're speaking up now. They would be. Yeah. So it's about timing. I don't think the wall really exists or the ceiling.
And that's an excellent point. And this is where
that's where faith comes in. FYI,
yeah.
That's the whole. That's the answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the answer. We can't. That's the answer.
Because you can be fearless as long as you maintain a moral code or your faith.
Exactly.
But you know what I wanted to say is about. I remember growing up, the library always had these reading programs in the summertime that you can go and read and. You'd win prizes if you read so many books in this period of time, stuff like that. But that was a different time because there weren't a whole lot of options for a whole lot of other things to do during the summertime besides play and go to the library. And then they engaged you to the library because usually the play areas were close to libraries.
Right.
Now, having come from the academic side, academia, I can say that the problem today with telling someone to read is that they can't read. The way schools are set up now and versus the way schools were set up when we were going to school, phonics was important. You learn the phonemes, you learn how to sound words out. Then they went to this new thing, and they haven't retreated from it, where you have to sight reading, which I'm totally against.
Common Core.
Totally against, because sight reading that says, I learned that this word says this and that. I don't learn how to sound it out. I don't know what a long vowel or a short vowel is. I don't know that Y is sometimes a vowel, although it's a consonant. I don't know that you don't say Xavier, because that doesn't exist. It should be Xavier, because the X in front of a vowel has a Z sound versus the X in front of a consonant has an X sound. They don't teach that anymore. So you have these preconceived notions when you're teaching school. Fourth grade, they get their first standardized set of tests. But by the time you get to fourth grade, majority of them don't know how to sound out words. They still don't know how to decode. And there's not enough time spent. And if you can't read well,
now I'm going to get you back here. You asked me a question.
Hit me.
Why do you think that is? And I have the answer to this.
I have two answers. Well, two reasons why. One is because textbooks companies make mega money from schools that purchase their product. You can say this textbook doesn't work, and the schools can say, well, we paid for it. We bought it. We're going to run this course of that. You can say we're paying too much money for a contract with Boise copy paper. I can go to Walmart and get it for a couple dollars. No, we got a contract. So they would rather waste money on their little contracts with their
politics,
with their cronies. Okay, that's one. Number two, there are a lot of parents who can't read, and I don't mean like I don't mean like when we were going through, there were great grandparents and grandparents that couldn't read because the opportunity wasn't presented to them. But truth be told, a lot of them could read. They just couldn't tell because they knew that if society, like my three times great uncle, I looked at the census and I asked him about it, and he said, no, he said, if they had known I could read, they'd have killed us. And he said it's a matter of fact, you know. So that let me know that, you know, but that's not the same excuse nowadays. Nowadays it's just that a lot of parents didn't do well in school and they dropped out. A lot of parents are young parents, and digital technology makes it so easy. You don't even know how to.
Yeah,
you can just hit a phone and just say.
That was the answer.
You know,
we first and foremost.
People don't even know what a dictionary looks like anymore, or what a thought. Right.
We like as simple as that. We actually don't communicate anymore. What we do
verbally.
What would you do first, right now? If you wanted your granddaughter was here, what would you do? Would you call her or would you text her?
Well, she's right here, right? If she was here,
I'm saying if you wanted to get in contact with her right now, 9 times out of 10 you're going to text. Well, maybe not you.
Well, I'll call
that
her.
generation would call her.
I'll call her first, and then I'll call her, and then I'll follow up with the text.
And then if you follow that up with the Twitter stuff, Facebook, like everything is, and then they've gotten to the point now where not just that point, but you shorten everything now. So you're not going to spell laugh out loud. You're going to abbreviate it. So everything that you can, I don't know, ID.
But part of
so you have kids that don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but that's a good point.
So the reading part is lost.
It's not being used. So they're figuring, well, you know what? We're going to give them what they need to use. I guess. I don't. This is my guess here.
Yeah, and so anyway, so when it comes to education, and that was a good point, Twala, and where we're going in education totally scares me because we are not involved in the process in terms of educating our kids. And if there's one thing that I think is critical is we need to galvanize those of us that can read to be more involved in the educational system and process. And we can't leave it to somebody else to figure out because that's what's gotten us in trouble to begin with. And when we had segregation, we had people there who were more concerned about our concerns.
That's true.
So with the integration, we have less people there concerned with our education system.
Well, we don't even have integration in the schools anymore because the minute that we got there, they left.
Right.
And so we were back in the same place. In fact, we were worse because at least in the segregated schools, I know that the relatives I know that went to segregated schools in the South, they were better educated than the children that are going to school now.
Right.
In terms of being able to read, being able to do math, being able to do life skills. The school systems are set up differently now to the point where when we went to school, we all learned wood shop, metal shop. We had sewing and cooking. You had and you didn't have it just one year. You had the next year, and you had the next year, and then you went on to high school.
Right.
So you don't have those things in school anymore. So I know that Francis isn't here today, but Francis has worked on a wonderful series of children's books, and I think that's the thing too. When children read books or see books, Teresa made a point about this. When you see a book where you can identify with the character looks like you, smells like you, walks and talks like you, or has a name like yours, then it kind of draws you more. And I think that's what we need to really do is look at what books are actually offered in the schools. What books schools have, and then actually take a look and say, this one doesn't work, this one doesn't work.
Right.
But that takes time, and I realize the problem we have in this society too is that we're not economically in a place where we got that kind of time.
Well, and I think that's a good point. And I wanted, before Haki leaves us, I wanted to get into intrapreneurship. I wanted to really talk about that because to me, as a business owner, that's the key. Is being, like you said, Jermaine, we need to be dependent on ourselves. We need to be fearless about how to create our own businesses, and we need to support one another.
We have to change the narrative that's been created for us for so long.
Yes. So you want to speak a little bit about?
Well, certainly, as you said, intrapreneurship. So entrepreneurship, I got the term from Dr. Randall Pickett, but I know I've heard it before, but I really got a good understanding of what it meant. From reading it from his book. So,
excuse me, what book did he write that
you so he has two. So, CEO Campus CEO, and that's a good book for college students. And Black Faces in High Places. No, Black Faces in White Places. Right. So, Dr. Randall Pickett. So pretty much understanding that not everybody's just going to jump into entrepreneurship and be full-time with it. And he suggested and believed that individuals who may have different types of jobs, to leverage that career or that position and look for opportunities and to think like an entrepreneur.
Even though you're in a corporate or employee setting. Okay.
Exactly. So, and that made a lot of sense because if we look at the Black community right now, I mean, not all of us are, we're a lot of government employees, look at what happened around, here with the federal government. And, some people were, y'all should be entrepreneurs. Well, I mean, it's a process, of course, but, certainly people can do things as conscious consumers as well to prepare for whatever's going to happen in state level, because we're too dependent right now, and unfortunately, many of us not going to all of us not going to be entrepreneurs. Let's just be totally real.
I understand what you mean, but can you maybe get a little more detail into what you mean by conscious consumer?
Yes, in a context, well, we got to spend more of our black dollars in black hands.
Hey. I just wanted you to say
that. Yeah, right.
Make it play.
Right.
That's make it play.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. I want to say, too, so we become a instant society, whereas, we don't want to know about the ingredients. We just want to drop some water on it and instantaneously a cake.
So,
whereas what we were saying about mentoring, mentoring starts with the parents, and so on, and the levels of educating.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So the grandmother taught the mother, who taught the child how to make a cake.
Yes.
Now we want to microwave that cake.
Right.
And we don't want to know about the ingredients, the flour, and the different things that you need to know in order to get the same results. So again, we've gotten into that instant.
That's a good point.
And we miss out on a lot of things.
This is the clutch. This is actually a disconnect. I don't even realize you're speaking it. This is the disconnect between the generations. Mr. Reese had a conversation Friday, and she made a statement in reference to me that blew me away a bit. She said, "You're a big picture person, but you don't know how to narrow down the details." And I was like, wow.
Repeat that.
Oh, I'm sorry. She said, "You're a big picture person, big picture, big vision person, but you don't know how to narrow down the details." And I told my wife, I told my mother, I was like, that was really good. Like, that was really, for somebody to just meet me on Sunday, that was pretty good. Like, that's the disconnect. We see beyond what our grandparents could see in this old excuse. When I'm saying this, I'm just giving you the honest, listen, you got to go to school and get your education and get a good job. Listen, I don't want to work for somebody the rest of my life. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to leave this job that I got right now. I'm making money, but I'm leaving it. Because I can't, morally speaking, if things is going on, I can't do it. For me, it's not how I want to live my life.
Right.
I'm taking control of that at this point. So it's not the way that you guys see. Like I have elder family members like, well, I see so much for you. I want you to do such. But the way what they see for me is not what I want for me. So you see for me to get a job and make $50,000, $60,000 a year, cool. My vision is so much bigger than that. But at the same time, I need what you're talking about, though. I need to know how to make that cake.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day,
that's good.
At the end of the day, I'm going to need that too.
So
this is the disconnect.
That's good.
And if I'm not getting that, the knowledge of making that cake, I'm not going to. I may get to the cake, but I have no idea how I got to it.
Exactly. And
that's the disconnect.
What you were saying about mentoring. Okay, even though there's a gap between the old and the young, we are vigilant. We don't want to hear it. We want to see it.
Right.
So what we as adults or parents are showing our children, they don't want to do that. And we have failed them in a lot of regards in that visualization to where no, I don't want to do it your way.
Right.
And I want that instant gratification now to whereas, now, before we had our so-called freedoms, we mentored our parents, and our parents showed us the way to go. The churches showed us which way to go.
Yes.
And these were tools that we use in order to govern our future lives.
Yes.
The parents have gotten away from that. The churches have gotten away from that. The teachers have gotten away from that. And what they're seeing on the media and TV and things of that nature is that I don't want that for me. So there goes the disconnect. And the more instant we become, the more the disconnection.
Wow.
I think too.
Go ahead.
I think too. And talking to young men and young ladies in your era, and we have children that are about the same age, all but one of our child. One is in the 20s, but the rest of them are in the 30s. Okay. The same thing is just that they always straddle this fence about hypocrisies. See, they see more in an earlier age. If something was going on, it took us a little longer when we were growing up to know the real deal, the real answer, all those in quiet tones.
Right.
They
Family
see,
secrets.
They see it right now. And
so,
because they see it right now, they call it right now, and the next thing you know, credibility is gone.
Lost them.
Right.
So it's like trying to round up that bit of credibility. Like even when people talk about church or just in the ecclesia, when you see priests and you hear now that they've assaulted these children, and you hear about pastors that have decimated the sanctuary with their relationships, or people in the church, or people in the church, you know, they're not in the pulpit but in the pews. When children see that, and because they see all these things now, they have this, you can't talk to me. I don't want to hear it because I see what you do, or I see what you're about, or I see what you're willing to accept. See?
Accept, that is the one. I'm tapping my foot over here. That's the one. Acceptance. Like, I'm just not willing. I'm not willing to accept anything. I'm about to turn 38 in a couple of weeks. I got kids of my own now. Like, so you think just because you are 50, 60, listen, I understand, I respect you as my elder, but listen, I got children of my own that's coming up, and I can't figure it out for them by what you went through 40 years ago. I'm sorry, it's not that way right now.
But I think Haki has the answer to that when he started out by talking about the wisdom and like you said, in terms of purpose and destiny, that not everybody else has the same purpose or destiny, and we need to give weight to that as elders, because there are some things we don't do correctly either. Instead of putting it all on the youth, we need to accept that my kid may not grow up to be a corporate worker. My kid may want to be a musician or a writer or whatever, but it doesn't have to be what I want. You want to speak a little bit?
As an elder, before you get started, as an elder, sometimes we got to get out the way.
Yes.
And let that new wave come. Because their energy and the things that they can do, they can take it to the next level. So, you know what I mean? Now, Moses took them to the mountain. But what's his name took him over.
Have mercy.
You know, not that Moses couldn't make it, but he wasn't ordained to do that because of whatnot. But yet still, I'm just saying, you know, so we got to get out. Well, not we. I ain't talking about me because I ain't old.
Where you married?
But anyway, but you know what? We have to teach, and as elders, the chief ain't always the chief. You see what I mean? So the chief, you know, we have to teach him that wisdom.
King Solomon and David, that's all you got to do. If you know the story, that's all I got to say.
That's all I'm saying. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, I'll just add, you know, and I'll just kind of plug here that I'm going to be in this film called No More Chains. A young lady did it in Fredericksburg, Maryland. She's from Fredericksburg, so we doing some screenings. And Isaiah Washington, I don't know if any of y'all know him. He'll be here. He'll be coming. We're doing a screening on the 21st of March. It's going to be at the Magic Johnson Theater. Magic Johnson Theater. No More Chains 2. There was a part 1 to it, so I wasn't in that. But yeah, so I'll be in that. But it's dealing with releasing the chains of bondage, various types of bondage. And, you know, I have a good part in that. So
what time would that be?
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock.
Okay, 6 o'clock.
And it may sell out, so I just tell people to go to Eventbrite, eventbrite.com, look for No More Chains 2 in Largo, Maryland.
Thank you.
March the 21st. So hopefully on Eventbrite people can see it and those that want to come.
So you want to tell us where we can find your book, and please pick up a copy today or tomorrow. Very soon.
Thank you. Well, SuccessScholarHaki.com, SuccessScholarHaki.com. You'll see my book, and this is Black Friday 2. I'm in that. I think Brother Klingman is in some of those as well. So it's good to be here. Good opportunity to share with you all. So keep up the good work.
We're happy to have you, and we're appreciative for what you're doing in our community, because you're a grassroots promoter in the community. You're really out there actively working, you know, and we appreciate that from you. And so I have a couple of announcements, and we have a community commemoration call to action. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing.
Yes.
Woo, woo, woo. She needs it.
Great answer.
This woman, for me, when I started reading and following her, I get so full because of her knowledge and how she just, some of the things she brings out, everyone may not agree, but they're powerful statements. So she'll be, they're doing a save the date for her in commemoration and honor because she's passed away, Sunday, March 17th, 2019 at 4 p.m. And that's going to be at the Thurgood Marshall Center, 1816 12th Street. And we got to get the Northwest in there, Washington, D.C. So please come out. Please come out. We need to honor her. She was a phenomenal. I still listen to her tapes today. Yes. And then we have also Seniors Against Domestic Violence. And that's GATS, GATCCS. It's a free job readiness workshop. Thank you, Twala. And job placement. It's each Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And that's going to be at Bladensburg Community Center, 4500 57th Avenue, Bladensburg, Maryland, 20710. So please, if you know someone who needs a job or anything, they're going to have free fresh fruits and vegetables, right? And no ID is required. So it's in Bladensburg. Again, I'm going to give that address. It's 4500 52nd Avenue, Bladensburg, Maryland, 20710. So please come out and support. We're here as a resource center to ensure that you can live your best life yet.
I also wanted to quick plug. DMV ITG Intergenerational Group presents Laughter Soup. It's a comedy show that we're putting together March 27th. We have a matinee at 12 p.m. as well as an evening show at 7 p.m. Tickets are $30. The event will be held at Harmony Hall Arts Center in the John Addison Concert Hall, 10701 Livingston Road, Fort Washington, Maryland, 20744. Again, we have two shows, one at 12, one at 7 p.m. And you can contact Ms. Ida Gardner at 202-413-4988 or 202-413-5191.
Okay. All right, so let's please support our community. But before we sound off, we've got to have Ms. Twala do our walk the walk.
Walk the walk. On this date in 1991, we saw a brutal beating of Rodney King on a tape. And after that court hearing and during the midst of that trial, he was in front of the people and he said one thing: can we all just get along? The question is, can we all just get along? And I'm not trying to talk about this group and that group. I'm talking about our group. I'm talking to you now. I'm talking about American descendants of slaves. I'm talking about Africans and African Americans. Can we all just get along? This week, I want you to reflect on how you can be an instrument in helping us all learn and activate the tools necessary to be able to get along. Hey, if we get along, we all be strong.
Yes, that's good.
Next week, we have Miss Miriam Whitehead Bryce, and she is here with her And I Don't Surrender to Judgments, a powerful, powerful book. Next week, you know, this is the week that we celebrate or we give homage to those that are our brothers and sisters that are living with HIV. And I'm saying living with HIV, not existing. They're living with HIV. She has a powerful, powerful testimony. Her face looks like us. You all have seen her before. You've heard some of her work. And before the end of the month, we'll have one Sunday where we'll have a thank you, Bill Cosby. And we'll be talking about Black men and how they are being ostracized and demonized in our society. So I want everybody to chime in on that. And then following that, Francis will give us a wonderful journey through Ghana. And at the end of the month, we will have Kalichi from Appeal that will be here with us. So final thing you have to say there?
Yeah, I want to just throw this in there. Like last month was Black History Month, and we're in March now. And guess what? We're still creating history. That's all.
So we can get to that next week. I need to make sure we get to this point. You know, we talked about a lot of stuff, but that connecting the dots thing where this is the problem of the youth and it connect. the church.
Oh, then you already started your walk to walk this right now.
Has to evolve, and I know nobody wants it to. I know the church has this, and I had to get this out before we end. This thing of I don't know about this new music, and the kids come to church and listen. If you want change, the church has to evolve. If the church, everything that you just said is the key. We can see for ourselves. The church has to evolve. The preacher can no longer be this guy that everybody looks to.
But the evolution has to start with the people in the pews first.
Because they have to own their what. Nobody's perfect. And if you're trying to teach me that God clearly says we're all born into sin, right? But you're trying to live this life of pristine stuff that is not a reality, come on now. It's not going to not with this generation, it's not going to happen.
Well, we can't wait for that conversation.
Well, with that means he started his walk to walk today. Yes. And with that, Ron, take us home.